It's kind of popular these days to crash everybody's fun by telling them things like,
it should actually be quite safe to fly through an asteroid field.
If you're in the asteroid belt, it's easier to fly through safely than it is to actually find an asteroid.
Our asteroid belt is mostly empty space.
But notice what's going on here. Simon on Today I Found Out talks about asteroid fields in generic plural terms.
The reality is that objects in asteroid fields are generally hundreds of thousands of miles apart.
But it's immediately clear that he's describing the asteroid belt.
If you added up the mass of all the asteroids in our solar system's asteroid belt, it's a mere 4% of the mass of our moon.
Phil Plait isn't talking specifically about the Hoth asteroid field, but he does the exact same thing. Talk about asteroid belts in generic terms.
When you watch movies, they always show spaceships dodging and swooping through asteroid belts.
And then immediately change the subject to our own asteroid belt.
But in reality, our asteroid belt is mostly empty space.
This is like saying, Star Wars depicts planets with homogeneous global ecosystems, but in reality, Earth has a huge diversity of ecosystems. Comparing any number of fictional life-sustaining planets to the single life-sustaining planet we know of, that would be silly. It completely destroys any rational and meaningful conversation we can have on the probability of planets like Hoth or Tatooine, or what conditions could lead to planets like them. It's a way to shut down discussion and to sound smart. These videos are doing just that. They're comparing any number of fictional collections of rocky bodies to the asteroid belt, the one single asteroid belt in our solar system, and barring the Trojans in Jupiter's orbit, basically the only significant collection of asteroids known to modern science. That's it. The entire argument is based on a single piece of evidence. The Hoth asteroid field is impossible because it does not resemble our asteroid belt, and that's completely ignoring that asteroid field is not a term that astronomers use, because we've never discovered an asteroid field that resembles those in sci-fi. So a better argument would be there is yet no evidence that asteroid fields like the one in Star Wars exist, but not some pedantic, well, technically the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field are really good because our asteroid belt is really diffuse. There's a word for this: anecdotal fallacy. The simple explanation of this fallacy is using a single piece of evidence to draw broad conclusions about something. We have a single piece of evidence, the asteroid belt, and we're arrogantly applying that single piece of evidence to every instance. So what's a more rational way to evaluate the asteroid field? Well, we have to remember that, like I said before, asteroid field is not an astronomic term. It's a sci-fi term, and in Star Wars, we see the term applied somewhat indiscriminately to any collection of relatively small rocky bodies. The term is way more broad than the concept of an asteroid belt. There are other things that look a lot like asteroid fields in canon Star Wars, but I'm focusing on the ones that I could find that were positively described on screen as an asteroid field.
Move our ships through the asteroid field.
So based on this evidence, what is an asteroid field in the Star Wars world? What we see is two of these cases, we're talking about planetary rings. In one of these cases, it's a relatively recently destroyed planet, and in two of these cases, we're not sure what conditions are behind them. The Today I Found Out YouTube channel claims that the Hoth asteroid field
formed several million years before the events of Empire Strikes Back via a collision of two rocky planets.
There's no canonical data as to the age of the Hoth asteroid field, or the conditions behind it. If we're going to debate the validity of Star Wars asteroid fields on scientific grounds, the Hoth asteroid field and the asteroid field from the Space Whales episode of Rebels are not the ones to focus on, because we have no data on them. And since they're fictional, we can't get data on them unless the creators tell us. The truth of the matter is that more than half of these examples aren't traditionally what we'd think of as asteroid fields anyway, and they certainly don't, nor should, resemble our familiar asteroid belt. I'm not an astronomer or an astrophysicist, so I'm not going to pretend like I can draw educated conclusions on this stuff, but I can pose questions. Are the dense, rocky rings of Geonosis possible under any known or hypothetical conditions? Is this what a recently pulverized planet might look like? I'm not sure, and if you know, I'd love to hear about that so I can do a follow-up. And of course, that can send us back to the Hoth asteroid field. Are there known or theoretical conditions that could form something like the Hoth asteroid field? The Today I Found Out YouTube channel seems to think so if it formed relatively recently.
Could there be one out there that would be dangerous to fly through? Unlikely unless it was formed extremely recently.
And that is possible, despite their attempts to shut down that conversation. Is the Hoth asteroid field the result of a recently pulverized moon or something? Maybe Hoth has a ring of asteroids that's further away than we can see in the movie. Or maybe the asteroid field shares an orbit with Hoth. Or maybe the Hoth asteroid field is constantly supplied with new material. But speculating and theorizing ways to harmonize the physics with the on-screen evidence is way more fun than corralling Star Wars asteroid fields into a specific category under faulty reasoning. And I'd like to imagine there's a more engaging explanation out there, and a more exciting conversation that we can have about the depictions of asteroids in Star Wars. I'd actually really like answers to these questions and to have a real conversation about this stuff. So if you have answers or know somebody I could talk to about this, that would be a really cool video. Anyway, thanks for liking and commenting and sharing this video with your friends, and I'll see you next time.